Welcome to the story of Isaac and Rebekah. We read, Genesis 24, Abraham was now old and well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. He said to the chief servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh." Now, scholars look at this particular expression, "put your hand under my thigh," and they suggest a sexual imagery here. After all, he's going to speak to the servant about continuing the family line. So is that something significant on a literary viewpoint in the text itself? Moving on, I'm going to make you swear by Yah. We don't pronounce the whole word, but we have some help, of course, from Legoland. God of heaven and God of earth, that you will not choose a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but will go to my native land and my own kinsfolk to choose a wife for my son Isaac. Choose a wife. Now, how were wives chosen in ancient times? Maybe bought? Would that be something that we could make an assertion about? Did the woman have any will at all in the matter? This is a couple of men bargaining, as it were, over a woman. Well, Carol Myers, who writes our text Discovering Eve, weighs in on the subject. In the story of Rebekah's betrothal to Isaac, she is asked if she will go to become Isaac's wife. And the account of Samson's marriage to a Philistine woman relates how Samson approaches both his mother and his father in expressing his marital desires, although it is apparently the father who made the arrangements. It's clear that ultimate male authority existed in the households as well as in public interaction. But we reiterate that such authority must always be qualified in terms of its functional role. Furthermore, our contemporary notions of family hierarchy are not adequate to describe the situation of gender relationships in a society where the family household was the determinative institution, and in which women were essential to both subsistence tasks and group survival. Anthropologists are right in warning that it is inappropriate to generalize authoritative behavior in one category to all categories, or even to assume that the concept of dominance always existed and meant the same as it does in our industrial urban world. That's a hugely significant paragraph, and one issue that we're going to face over and over in our material is the extent to which ancient Israel was a patriarchal society or not. Yes, we've got to admit it was patriarchal. All ancient societies of the Near East were. But there are levels of patriarchalness. There are degrees of being patriarchal. And is it possible that in some respects the society was a lot more egalitarian than we might want to give it credit for? You can argue it either way, and the only one who gets to be neutral on it is your professor. But it's intended to stir up discussion, debate, yes, controversy. And by the way, the arrangement of a marriage in Jewish society has traditionally been called shidduch, an arranged marriage. And Jews have done this since ancient times, and even in some cases, in very Orthodox societies, down to the present. There's another issue for us. Is that a good system? Of course, it's frowned upon today, but we're Johnny-come-latelys. The whole idea of courtship, as we think of it, is just what, a couple of centuries old? Are we just to ignore everything that went before because our way is the best way? Just stirring it up again, and the whole idea is to stir up controversy and debate. We don't want anyone sitting on the fence except your professor.
Taylor.
I didn't ask you.
Michael, you're the oldest. They have to make a match for you before they can make one for me. And then after her, one for me. So if Jente brings someone...
Jente.
Well, somebody has to arrange the matches.
She might bring someone wonderful.
Someone interesting.
And well off.
And important. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Matchmaker, matchmaker, look through your book and make me a perfect match.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, I'll bring the veil. You bring the groom, slender and pale. Bring me a ring, for I'm longing to be the envy of all I see.
For Papa, make him a scholar.
For Mama, make him rich as a king.
For me, well, I wouldn't holler if he were as handsome as anything.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Night after night in the dark I'm alone, so find me a match
Of my own.
Since when are you interested in a match, Chava? I thought you just had your eye on your books. And you have your eye on the rabbi's son.
Well, why not? We only have one rabbi, and he only has one son. Why shouldn't I want the best?
Because you're a girl from a poor family. So whatever Yenta brings, you'll take, right? Of course, right.
Huddle! Oh, Huddle! Have I made a match for you? He's handsome. He's young. All right, he's 62, but he's a nice man, a good catch. True? True. I promise you'll be happy. And even if you're not, there's more to life than that. Don't ask me what. Mama! I found him! Will you be a lucky bride? He's handsome. He's tall. That is, from side to side. But he's a nice man, a good catch, right? Right. You heard he has a temper. He'll beat you every night, but only when he's sober. So you're all right. Did you think you'd get a prince?
Well, I'll find the best I can.
With no dowry, no money, no family background. Be glad you got a man.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, you know that I'm still very young. Please, take your time.
Up to this minute, I misunderstood that I could get stuck for good. Dear Yenta, see that he's gentle. Remember, you were also a bride. It's not that I'm sentimental. It's just that I'm terrified. Matchmaker, matchmaker, plan me no plans. I'm in no rush. Maybe I've learned. Playing with matches, a girl can get burned. So bring me no ring, groom me no groom, find me no fine, catch me no catch, unless he's a matchless man.
Fiddler on the Roof. Gotta love it, right? We love movies and popcorn. Watch it. Well, any objections that can be raised? The servant asked him, "What if the woman is unwilling to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you came from?" "Make sure that you do not take my son back there," Abraham said. "The Lord, the God of heaven, who brought me out of my father's household and my native land, and who spoke to me and promised me on oath, saying, 'To your offspring I will give this land,' he will send his angel before you so that you can get a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to come back with you, then you will be released from this oath of mine. Only do not take my son back there." Interesting stuff going on here. And the servant placed his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham and swore to him what he would do. So apparently, the woman does have choice in the matter. Yes, the men are making an arrangement, but the woman is not just chattel. She does have a mind of her own. She can say no. And in that case, the oath is null and void. At least we know that while marriages were arranged, they were not forced. Genesis 24, verse 11, he had the camels kneel down near the well outside the town. Now the servant has gone on, and he approaches his destination. The camels kneel down near the well. We've noticed before that wells seem to be a very important feature of biblical narratives. Something important always happens connected with wells. It was toward the evening, the time the women go out to draw water. There's something about water, giving life and giving sustenance, also connected with family procreation. Then he prayed, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, give me success today and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I'm standing beside this spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a girl, please let down your jar that I may have a drink, and she says, drink and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. So he's looking for a sign, something from the heavens, from the divine presence to indicate this is the one. Before he had finished praying, Rivka, Rebecca we call her, came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Betuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin. Look at what the biblical text prizes. Virginity, also beauty. Beauty is prized. So how prudish is this religious text? Is it all right to desire beauty? No man had ever lain with her. Of course, virginity. Huge stress on this, especially if the text repeats it. A virgin, no man had lain with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. Of course, we have this very complicated family tree that we introduced before. And notice where Rivka, Rebecca, fits in. Daughter of Betuel, then Milcah, then Haran, and Terach is the granddad of them all. So this is a distant relative of Abraham, as we see. Again, a male could be with many women according to biblical law, but a woman could be with only one man. Male virginity was not an issue, only the woman's. Is this a double standard going on here? Man can have many women, a woman can have only one man. The servant hurried to meet her and said, please give me a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. After she had given him a drink, she said, I'll draw water for your camels too until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the well, again the well, to draw more water, and drew enough for all his camels. Fresh well water, symbolizing family, fertility. Without saying a word, the man watched her closely to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing a bekah, whatever a bekah is, and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels. The engagement ring, is that what we've got here? By the way, send in your celebrity nose ring photos. Then he asked, whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She answered him, I am the daughter of Betuel, the son of Milcah, the son that Milcah bore to Nahor. She added, we have plenty of straw and fodder, as well as room for you to spend the night. Then the man bowed down and worshipped the Lord, saying, Praise be to the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindred and faithfulness to my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the journey to my father, to the house of my master's relatives. And it says something interesting. The girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. He asked, is there room in your father's house? But the girl ran to her mother's household. Does that tell us anything about ancient biblical culture? Maybe while the men are dominant in the public arena, when it comes to the home, it's mama's house. And in fact, has that not held true across the generations in Jewish society? How many Jewish guys talk about their Yiddish papa? It's their Yiddish mama. Does mom rule the roost? So we have to be careful when we talk about patriarchy and male sexism when it comes to the biblical text. There are ways to debate this, and of course debate is what we want. It's the prominence of the mother that features in this text. Now, Rebekah had a brother named Laban, and he hurried out to the man at the spring. As soon as he had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, and had heard Rebekah tell what the man said to her, he went out to the man and found him standing by the camels near the spring. Come, you who are blessed by the Lord, he said. Why are you standing out here? I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man went to the house, and the camels were unloaded. Straw and fodder were brought for the camels, and water for him and his men to wash their feet. Then food was set before him, but he said, I will not eat until I have told you what I have to say. Then tell us, Laban said. So he said, I am Abraham's servant. And the narrative continues as the tension builds. I asked her, whose daughter are you? She said, the daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him. Then I put the ring in her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Laban and Bethuel answered, this is from the Lord. We can say nothing to you one way or another. So there's a divine sign here, and they recognize it. This is from the Lord. We can't say anything. It's somebody else's business, the divine's business. Here is Rebekah, take her and go. Let her become the wife of your master's son as the Lord has directed. Well, does she have a choice in the matter? That's the issue. We talked about the shidduch system, making a match. But does the woman have a choice? That becomes, of course, the great theme in the Broadway hit Fiddler on the Roof. Does she have a choice? How patriarchal is this society? Then the servant brought out gold and silver jewelry and articles of clothing and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave costly gifts to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night there. When they got up the next morning, he said, send me on my way to my master. But her brother and her mother replied, let the girl remain with us 10 days or so, then you may go. So clearly they care a lot about her. They want time with her before just giving her away. But he said to them, don't detain me. Now that the Lord has granted success to my journey, send me on my way so that I may go to my master. Then they said, let's call the girl and ask her about it. Now they had not yet consulted her, but they called Rebekah and asked her, will you go with this man? I will go, she said. She agrees to the marriage, sight unseen. But she does have a choice. They do ask her, and she gets to respond, yes or no. She agrees. Of course, she hasn't even seen the groom. And we ask, is this love? Is this romantic love? Have we found romantic love in the Bible? If so, it's very much a different kind of romantic love than we think of today. So they sent their sister Rebekah on their way along with her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "Our sister, may you increase to thousands upon thousands. May your offspring possess the gates of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her maids got ready and mounted their camels and went back with the man. So the servant took Rebekah and left. Finally, we get to the great meeting, the meeting of the two. And once again, a well figures in the narrative. Now, Isaac had come from Be'er Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me, which we introduced before. For he was living in the Negev, down in the south, the Negev desert. He went out to the field one evening to meditate. It's nice that he meditates. And as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. And Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac. Notice how the narrative builds. It builds. There's an anticipation until finally she looks up and sees him. How romantic. Isn't that nice? That could be a Hollywood moment, couldn't it? And it's an idea of fate that's present in this text. This is the divine will. It's a manifest destiny that they meet. She got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" "He is my master," the servant answered. So she took her veil and covered herself. Once again, there's an anticipation here and this question. Who is that man? Who is that man in the field? This kind of questioning is going to appear in another important biblical story when we get to the book of Ruth that we'll talk about later. But it's building an anticipation. And she takes a veil, covers herself, because he's not supposed to see her face. Another part of ancient society. She's not allowed to reveal herself, in fact, until properly married. Wow, that's ancient society. You can't look at her yet. Is that romantic? Maybe more romantic, at least than we give it credit for, because he has to wait. Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother, Sarah. Again, stress on the mother. And he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. This verse speaks volumes. And so it is with the biblical narrative. Everything is very succinct and precise. The text doesn't mince words. There's nothing extraneous in it, and it invites us to dive into the text ourselves. It's very different from modern literature, where we want to know everything. We want the writer to tell us everything we need to know. Not so in antiquity. The reader has to enter the text, becomes part of the story, asking questions, wondering what's going on between the lines, between every word. In this case, are we looking at a sequence here? She became his wife first. The marriage is first. Then he loved her. So rather than the modern notion of you fall in love, it's very romantic, and then you get married, maybe. They get married first, and then they learn this concept of real love. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted. Wife, loved, comforted. And a real difference between this love story and that of Abraham and Sarah, where we're not told much of anything about how Abraham acquires his wife. And of course, as the story progresses, we wonder if there is any real caring or any marriage between Abraham and Sarah, at least until Sarah dies. And Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean, from Padan Aram, and sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. The Lord answered his prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant. Because she was barren, again, there's a motif here of barrenness in the biblical text, and the idea that divine intervention rescues the woman from her barrenness. It's a repeat of the Sarah story, but this time there is genuine love and compassion, apparently from the get-go. And the fact that this marriage is arranged doesn't negate the love between them and the comfort. And of course, the divine intervention for the barren woman. But interestingly, we're told the babies jostled each other within her. And she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the other." The story is setting us up for a continuing drama. In this case, between the two offspring, who are going to represent two quarreling nations. Who are they? Jacob and Esau. Moving on later in the narrative, the boys grew up. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man, staying among the tents. But Isaac preferred Esau, for he had a taste for wild game, but Rebekah preferred Jacob. Ooh, another telling verse. Well, we were excited to see some real love and even romantic love in this story, but it still is a dysfunctional family. One child is loved more than another. And as the story continues, we'll find this leads to deceit and tearing the whole family apart. And Isaac, in the end, seems to follow the bad example of Abraham. As the story goes on, there was a famine in the land, besides the earlier famine of Abraham's time, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," because he was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebekah because she is beautiful. What, like father, like son? Just like Abraham. Now, he really loved Rebekah. We're told he did, and yet he does this. Maybe it's learned cowardice, or is this just another literary motif that's used by the author? We looked at Kirsch before, and let's just consider what he says again. The same ploy is adopted by Isaac, the son of Abraham and Sarah, when he makes his own journey to Abimelech's kingdom in the company of his wife Rebekah. Like his father, Isaac retorts to the deception of calling Rebekah his sister out of plain cowardice. When Isaac had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, "She is really your wife. Why did you say she is my sister?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might lose my life on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." Well, it doesn't turn out as badly as Abraham's experience, and the text just seems to gloss over it. It goes on. So Abimelech gave orders to all the people, "Anyone who molests this man or his wife shall be put to death." And then we're told Isaac planted crops in the land. The same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. Now, Abraham is a nomad. He's always wandering from place to place. But Isaac settles down. He becomes a planter. He stays put. And we're told the man became rich, and his wealth continued to grow until he became very wealthy. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite. and also Batemat, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Well, here we have biblical law in action. The man can have 2 wives, actually as many as he wants. But even though it's legal, doesn't mean it's good. And the text seems to hint that when you've got more than one, there can be problems. The very thing Abraham didn't want, a foreign daughter-in-law, is exactly what they get. And this, we might observe, is the beginning of all mother-in-law conflicts. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him and commanded him, do not marry a Canaanite woman. So let it be written. So let it be done.